Good morning, cadets. Yesterday we have solved some numerical problems on the heating. It's not the heating effect. Yes, numerical problem on the platinum wire resistance, right? And thermally sensitive resistor, what we call it as thermistor, right? Today let us solve one more problem, and we'll come to know how the current passing through a coil will heat it, and how one can measure that high temperature, which will be very high, of the order of 800, 900, 1000 degrees Celsius, right? How one can measure that temperature with the knowledge of resistance. We have already solved one problem. Let us solve one more interesting problem. It is a problem of a toaster. Toaster is a device which is used to toast the bread, roast the bread. It is an electrical device. It is just like an electric heater, right? Or an electric iron. And the current is passed through the toaster. The toaster has a coil, the nichrome coil. The nichrome coil gets heated up strongly, and then the breads which are inserted in the space there, the breads slices get heated up strongly and they will be toasted. So, it is called as a toaster. So, an electric toaster uses nichrome for its heating element, uses nichrome as its heating element. When a negligibly small current passes through it, its resistance at room temperature is found to be 75.3 ohm. Before the electric current that is passed, you can say at room temperature, the resistance of the nichrome coil in the toaster is 75.3. So, that is what I have written, initial resistance 75.3 at room temperature 27 degrees Celsius. When the toaster is connected to 230 volt supply, when it is connected to 230 volt supply, the current settles to a steady value of 2.68 amperes. When the current settles to a steady value of 2.68 amperes, what is the steady temperature of the nichrome element? The moment you connect it to a toaster or a heater or an electric oven, immediately there will be a passage of current. The current starts passing through the coil. Initially, there is a growth of current. After some time, when the nichrome coil gets heated up, it gets heated up to a strong, very high temperature. That moment, the current through the coil will be constant. There will be no more increase in the current or no more decrease in the current. That is what we call it as steady state temperature and steady state current. Initially, the current will be high, and slowly when the toaster coil gets heated up strongly, the resistivity increases and resistance increases. As a result, what happens? The current will be decreased to certain value and then it becomes constant. That is what we call it as steady current. So, you are asked to find out what is that high temperature at which the nichrome coil gets heated up strongly, and the resistance of that can be calculated using the value of voltage that is connected, voltage that is supplied, and the steady current. So, first I have written the initial value of resistance at room temperature 27 degrees Celsius is 75.3 ohm. Supply of voltage 230 volt. Current, steady state current 2.68 amperes. So, from this V and I, using Ohm's law, one can calculate what is the temperature, resistance at that steady current. Resistance at that steady current, RT I have taken, final resistance, RT equal to V by I, 230 by 2.68. 230 by 2.68 gives us 85.8 ohm. So, when the resistance of that hot nichrome coil becomes 85.8 ohm, what is the final temperature at that final resistance? So, you got initial resistance, final resistance, right, and the temperature coefficient of resistivity of nichrome coil is given. It is 1.7 into 10 raised to minus 4. So, using this one can calculate what is the high temperature, right. Now, you can see what is the final temperature. So, I am using RT equal to, see this equation, RT equal to R naught into bracket 1 plus alpha into T minus T naught, R naught into bracket 1 plus alpha into bracket 1 plus alpha into bracket T minus T naught. Therefore, after simplification we get RT minus R naught divided by R naught alpha equal to T minus T naught. This I can write using the definition of equation of temperature coefficient of resistivity alpha. Alpha equal to RT minus R naught divided by R naught into delta T. Therefore, delta T is equal to what? RT minus R naught divided by R naught into alpha. Just substitute the values. RT 85.8 minus 75.3, RT minus R naught divided by 75.3 into 1.7 into 10 raised to minus 4. Yes. So, the difference, see 85.3 minus 85.8 minus 75.3, 8 minus 3 it is 5 and it is going to be 10.5, 10.5 divided by this denominator. If you calculate this, it comes out to be, you see, 820 degrees Celsius. So, this 820 degrees Celsius is the delta T, that is difference in temperature, delta T. So, if it is delta T 820 degrees Celsius, we want final temperature. Final temperature is equal to T naught plus 820. What is T naught? Initial temperature 27 degrees Celsius and final temperature, difference in temperature is 820. Therefore, T is equal to T naught plus 820, T naught plus 820, 820 plus 27 it becomes 847 degrees Celsius. Okay. This is how one can get the final temperature. So, this is very interesting. By the knowledge of the resistance at that steady value of current, one can estimate what is the temperature. This is the principle of platinum wire resistance, platinum resistance wire or thermally sensitive resistor. Okay. Now, the question arises, how does a coil like a toaster coil, like a nichrome coil gets heated up strongly and becomes red hot, whereas the connecting wire like the copper wire which is connecting it does not get heated up. Is it not interesting? Such type of questions were being discussed when you were in 10th class. When you were in 10th class, electric oven for example, electric oven or electric iron for example. Electric iron has a connecting wire, right, and when you switch on the connecting wire, the electric iron becomes very hot. The electric iron has got a nichrome coil. The coil becomes very hot, whereas the wire that is connected will not be so hot. If that would be also same temperature, if that would be also having same high temperature, then the wire would be melted. It would be a disaster, right? It does not happen. Copper allow the current to pass through, whereas the nichrome coil gets heated up. The reason is the temperature coefficient of resistivity. The temperature coefficient of resistivity of copper is very low. It is of the order of, as we discussed yesterday, 10 to the power of minus 4 per degree Kelvin. For copper it is 0.0068, means 6.8 into 10 to the power of minus 4 per degree. That is the temperature coefficient of resistivity of copper. And resistivity of copper is 1.7 into 10 to the power of minus 8 ohm meter. So, resistivity value is also very low, of the order of 10 to the power of minus ohm meter. So, it is a very good conductor. The moment the current passes through, it allows the current to pass through, maximum current to pass through because of very less value of resistivity and resistance. And its temperature coefficient is also very, very low, 6.8 into 10 to the power of minus 4 per degree Celsius. Whereas the nichrome coil, which is a specially prepared alloy, the nichrome coil, which is a specially prepared alloy using nickel, chromium and iron, you see it's get heated up strongly. The reason is its resistivity, as we discussed yesterday, is 100 into 10 to the power of minus 8, that is 10 raised to minus 6 ohm meter. Its resistivity is higher, therefore it becomes hot. And one more important thing is its temperature coefficient of resistivity is 4 into 10 to the power of minus 4, 4 into 10 to the power of minus 4. So, temperature coefficient of resistivity of nichrome is less than temperature coefficient of resistivity of the copper. Therefore, the copper wire does not get heated up, whereas nichrome coil gets heated up. Even manganese is also of the same value. It means, what do you mean by temperature coefficient of resistivity? Temperature coefficient of resistivity is change in resistance per unit resistance, per unit rise in temperature. So, temperature coefficient of resistivity of the nichrome is less, 0.0004, that is 4 into 10 to the power of minus 4, 4 into 10 to the power of minus 4 per degree Kelvin or per degree Celsius. Whereas that for copper is 6.8 into 10 to the power of minus 4 per degree Celsius or per degree Kelvin. Therefore, the change in resistivity per change in resistance or change in resistivity per unit rise of temperature is more in the case of copper. Therefore, the copper does not get heated up strongly, whereas the nichrome, being its temperature coefficient of resistivity very low, its resistance does not increase much to the higher extent. So, what happens is finally, because of its high resistivity, its coil will be having a higher resistance. It shows more and more opposition to the flow of charges, more and more collisions. As a result, it will have more heating effect. Okay, this is the very important thing. Copper is a very good conductor, has a very high conductivity, whereas the nichrome, although it is a good conductor, but its conductivity is less compared to that of copper. This is a simple explanation. Okay. Now, let us see what is the cause of this heating effect. Now, roughly you understood the resistance of the coil or resistivity of the coil is the cause of the heating effect. Let us discuss about the cause of electrical energy and power, and what is the reason for a loss of heat in the form of loss of energy in the form of heat, or loss of power in the form of heat, Joule's heating effect. Let us study. Okay, now let us study about estimation of electrical energy and power. Consider there is a conductor AB is a conductor, and think that there is a flow of charges and there is a current flowing from end A to end B. When the current can flow from end A to end B, what does it mean? There should be a potential difference. That A should be at a higher potential, B should be at lower potential. When there is a difference of potential, then only the charges can flow from higher potential level to lower potential level. So, the potential difference must be present. VA, potential at A must be greater than potential at B. If I is the current flowing from A to B. Means A should be at higher potential than B, so that the charges can flow from A to B. It is just like the water can flow from higher level to lower level. When there is a difference in height of a pipe, then only the water can flow from higher level to lower level, right? If it is horizontal, if the difference in height is 0, then it is very difficult for the water to flow. The water will just stagnate, it will be stopped unless it is being pumped from one end to another end. Work has to be done, right? So otherwise, if difference in height is maintained, then the water can flow. So water flows from higher level to lower level, right? Similarly, we have studied from the thermodynamics the flow of heat. The thermal energy flows from a body at higher temperature to a body at lower temperature. So that is what we called as heat. Heat is the energy in transit from a body at higher temperature to body at lower temperature. As long as there is a temperature difference, there will be flow of heat, there will be flow of thermal energy. As long as there is a difference in the level of height, so long there will be flow of water. As long as there is a difference in potential energy, so long there will be flow of charges. So difference in potential energy is required to allow the charges to flow from one end to another end. So that difference in potential energy should be such that if the current is flowing from A to B, A should be at higher potential than B. Then only the current, the flow of positive charges take place from point A to point B, right? So this potential difference I am writing as, let us say, V equal to VA minus VB, VA minus VB, right? Now, when there is a potential difference, let us calculate what is the amount of charge that has flown in certain amount of time delta t. So if I calculate the amount of charge that has flown from point A to point B, I can calculate what is the difference in potential energy. So once I calculate difference in potential energy, then I can go for estimating what is electrical energy during the transit of these charges, right? So potential difference, I got it. Now if delta Q is the charge, flown in time delta t, then we know that I is equal to delta Q by delta t. I is equal to delta Q by delta t. This implies the amount of charge flown through certain amount of time delta t is delta Q is equal to I into delta t. So the amount of charge that has flown from A to B in time delta t is I delta t, that is equal to delta Q, right? So if delta Q is the amount of charge that has flown from A to B, I can calculate what is the potential energy difference. Potential energy difference between A and B. So potential energy difference, if I write it as delta U, potential energy difference delta U by our initial studies, we know that it is final potential energy minus initial potential energy. So what is final potential energy? UB is the final potential energy. Therefore delta U is equal to UB minus UA, UB minus UA. We know what is potential energy. UB is equal to charge into potential. Potential at that point is VB and the charge is delta Q, right? Charge into potential at that point gives us potential energy. Similarly, what is UA? UA is equal to VA into delta Q. VA into delta Q. Therefore, difference in potential energy delta U is therefore equal to UB. UB is VB delta Q minus VA delta Q. So, take out this delta Q. When you take out delta Q common, then it becomes VB minus VA into delta Q. VB minus VA into delta Q. So, what is VB and what is VA? You take the difference. See here, the difference in potential is VA minus VB. So, here we got VB minus VA. So, it implies it should be minus V. Therefore, VB minus VA is equal to minus V into delta Q. Minus V into delta Q, where minus V is the potential difference, because VA, as we have seen earlier, VA is at higher potential than VB. Therefore, VA minus VB is positive. So, VB minus VA is negative. Therefore, it becomes minus V into delta Q. But what is delta Q? Delta Q is equal to I delta T. Therefore, it becomes minus V into I delta T. So, when you look at finally the difference in potential energy, that is final potential energy minus initial potential energy, UB minus UA is negative, minus VI delta T. It means potential difference is negative, means as the charges flow from A to B, when the current flows from A to B, the potential energy is decreasing. This is the meaning. As the charges flow from A to B, potential energy is decreasing. This is what we have to conclude. Okay, so I will write here. Therefore, as current I flows from A to B, the potential energy decreases. There is a decrease in potential energy. So, loss in potential energy. So, that decrease in potential energy is nothing but loss in potential energy. Delta U is equal to minus VI delta T. Minus VI delta T. This is what we have calculated, right? Now, very interesting thing is there. Now, we can see. But according to the law of conservation of energy, whenever there is a loss of some form of energy, there should be some gain, so that the total mechanical energy should be always constant. The loss of energy must be appearing in the another form of energy. So, think that the conductor does not have any resistance. It means when the charges are flowing from one end to another end, from A to B along the length of the conductor, there are no collisions taking place. When there are no collisions taking place, because of the applied electric field, the charges accelerate. This is what we have studied. So, as a result of acceleration, what happens? The speed of the charges increase. Think that there are no collisions taking place. When there are no collisions taking place, the charges accelerate. As a result, the speed increases. When there is an increase in speed, it leads to increase in kinetic energy. So, loss of potential energy must be found in the form of gain of kinetic energy. If there is no resistance or no collisions, if there are no collisions or no resistance, then the charges accelerate with higher speed. As a result, there should be gain in kinetic energy. Therefore, according to law of conservation of energy, delta U must be equal to minus of delta K, or vice versa. Delta K must be equal to minus of delta U. So, gain in kinetic energy must be equal to minus of, that is loss of potential energy. Loss of potential energy must be found in the form of gain in kinetic energy. So, that becomes minus of minus, that is V I delta T. But what happens practically speaking? There will be always some amount of resistance. When the current or the charges flow in the conductor, we have studied the charges do not accelerate usually, because before they could accelerate to higher and higher velocities, they undergo collisions. Because of their frequent collisions, they would not have average acceleration, but we have calculated on an average they will have a drift speed. So, there will be no acceleration, there will be a drift speed. The reason is the number of collisions the particles undergo. The charged particles undergo collisions with ions and atoms, as a result of which whatever the gain in kinetic energy is there, that is imparted to the atoms and ions. As a result, the atoms and ions vibrate about their positions. The atoms and ions vibrate vigorously about their positions. As a result, this gain in kinetic energy is converted into the heat, that is due to vibrational motion of atoms and ions, right. So, that is the thing that actually happens. Since charges undergo frequent collisions with ions and atoms, the gain in kinetic energy, the difference in kinetic energy or the gain in kinetic energy is imparted to the ions and atoms which vibrate vigorously. So, which vibrate vigorously means whatever there is a difference in kinetic energy is there, that is used to do work in imparting energy to the ions and atoms. Once they vibrate, it appears in the form of heat. As a result, the conductor gets heated up. That is the reason why the nichrome coil gets heated up strongly once the current is passed through. The main reason is its little bit high value of resistivity and high value of resistance. So, at a steady state it will have a very high temperature because of more and more number of collisions. The atoms and ions vibrate vigorously. So, delta K should be equal to delta W, where delta W is the work done in that is the energy that is imparted. Delta W is the energy that is imparted to the atoms and ions, which is equal to VI delta T. VI delta T. Therefore, I can calculate what is the power now. Therefore, power dissipated in the form of heat is calculated as delta W by delta T. Delta W by delta T becomes VI delta T by delta T, so it becomes VI. So, this is the power dissipated in the form of heat. So, we know using Ohm's law, V is equal to RI or V is equal to IR. Therefore, power dissipated in the form of heat is calculated as IR into I. So, it becomes I square R. So, this I square R is the loss of energy, loss of electrical energy in the form of heat, So, this loss of electrical energy in the form of heat is called as ohmic loss. It is called as ohmic loss, or this ohmic loss is also called as loss due to Joule's heating effect. Loss of energy, loss of electric energy, due to Joule's heating effect. Means that part of electrical energy is converted into heat in the form of heat. So, that is what we call it as ohmic loss and loss due to Joule's heating effect. It is dependent on square of the current and directly proportional to resistance. So, this power that is lost is directly proportional to square of the current and it is directly proportional to resistance. So, greater the value of current, more is the power loss. Greater the resistance of the wire, more is the power loss. So, usually during long distance transmission of power through the power cables or power lines, we get the electric power from thermal power station, Shakti Nagar, or we may get electric power from the hydroelectric power station from Almaty or hydroelectric power station from Bhadravati. So, we get this power from a very long distance, maybe Kudgi also, Kudgi thermal electric power station. So, this power has to be transmitted over a long distance of about more than 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers, depending on the city or the place, right. So, the cables or the lines will be of a very such long distance of the order of hundreds of kilometers. So, usually power loss will be very high, considerably high, because longer the length of line, longer the length of the wire, then naturally what happens? The resistance is very high. More the resistance, more is the power loss, because power loss is directly proportional to resistance. And power loss is directly proportional to square of the current. This is very interesting thing, very important thing. So, during power transmission, power will be usually transmitted at low currents, high voltage but at low currents. So, this is what we are going to discuss in another topic, that is AC circuits. AC circuits are the very important circuits wherein we study alternating currents. So, there is a possibility of decreasing the current. So, by decreasing the current, power loss can be minimized. Okay. So, this will continue the discussion in the next video session, and we will solve some numerical problems. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.